Welcome back to Where is the Money? So all of these politicians and all of these economists that's working for the administration have been placating us to tell us this is not a recession. Everything is fine. The cost is going up. It's okay. The policies is hurting us. It's okay. The tariffs are coming. It's okay. Everything is okay. While economically, everything is burning down.
We're back to 3% inflation in the United States for the first time since January. So these new numbers out show that prices were up by 0.3% between August and September. That's actually slightly better than expected. However, the annual inflation rate moved in the wrong direction from 2.9% to 3%. And as I mentioned, that is a new 8-month high for inflation.
In a way, when we talk about AI right now and the sort of the euphoria in the stock market, that the whole world is about to change, it's about to transform. And that was the feeling in the 1920s.
They refuse to acknowledge the R word. We know what that is, the recession word. They don't like to talk about that. That's not real to the administration and those that are running things right now. But as the everyday working class people, we see it right in our face. So some people are saying now that, hey, we're well past a recession. We've been there for a while. It is now a depression that we're going into. So let's talk about it.
Terrible breaking news. The banks are literally running out of money. And it doesn't matter that the Fed just lowered interest rates because banks literally don't have money to lend. See, they're tightening their books, cutting credit, and that's why you're seeing all these layoffs everywhere. It's not because of AI. It's because companies can't get loans anymore. And that's what happens right before a depression. We're not heading for a recession. We're heading for a full-blown depression. Mark my words. And here's the kicker. Banks have less cash because people are quite honestly broke. Deposits have been falling for years. Families drain their savings just to buy groceries. Corporations pulled their cash out to buy back their own stock or move it into higher yield funds. So even if interest rates drop, which they have, there's literally nothing left to lend. And Donald Trump, he's only made it worse. He caused inflation with tariffs. He's collapsing healthcare so millions are choosing between food, rent, and medicine. And he's driven out millions of immigrants who, whether you like it or not, were customers. They bought food, clothes, cars, and kept money moving. And now that velocity is just gone. Meanwhile, the stock market looks great, but it's all fake. Big companies have been buying back their own stock, shrinking supply so that it makes their prices higher. AI companies are built on hype and not results, and investors are just parking money there because there's nowhere else to go. In 2008, though, we had tools to stop this kind of crash. We could cut rates, print money, and rebuild. But now, those tools are gone. Rates are already low, the debt is massive, and banks have less cash than they did before COVID. That's stagflation. Prices rising, jobs vanishing, money drying up. And when stagflation hits a broke middle class, it doesn't end in a soft landing. It ends in a depression. So don't let them tell you that this is normal, because it's not. It's deliberate. They're crashing the system so they can rebuild it in their image. And this time, sadly to say, there is no parachute for us.
In success, if all of these companies actually grow into these valuations, which I think some people think are overvalued now, it means they have to create extraordinary productivity. What does that actually mean? Productivity is a euphemism for taking cost out. Where is that cost? That cost is us around this table.
Just
everybody
today,
watching.
it is
Just
an entire
today,
generation.
Gary Cohn was talking about all these layoffs we've seen in the last week. And he said, no. This isn't a downturn. This is companies, they overhired and now they're just getting more efficient.
That's right.
Well, if AI is efficient in the way it wants to be, we're heading to the Jetsons.
Yeah, what happened?
Is that the case? Is the banks running out of money? Are they tightening the credit limits even with the lowered interest rate that they dropped again? Is that making a difference with the way the banks is operating? She seems to think the reason behind the layoffs is not that, they're losing money, it's that the money is not coming as fluent as it used to be. A lot of this is private equity money. A lot of this is VC money. Sometimes that's accredited investors, sometimes it's non-accredited investors. It's different, right? So all of that collection of money, the interest rates play a role, but when the banks start tightening up, it's a chain reaction across all of those sourcing methods, and then they gotta tighten the budget. So she seems to think that's the real reason things are moving the way it is, and they're moving more to automation because they're trying to wait out if the market does crash, if the company is in the best strategic position to weather the storm over the competition that might get wiped out. So from a business standpoint, it may make sense, but from a morale and personal perspective, kind of gotta suck.
As I see like another announcement of like companies laying off huge amounts of people, it is starting to feel like we're not gonna be in a recession, we're gonna be in a depression. That's what it feels like. It feels scary. And I don't know if it's just my algorithm showing me like all this food insecurity and people stocking up and like, this is how you survive with like no food or like one bag of rice for a week or, you know, whatever. Okay, and maybe I'm engaging too much with that type of content, but like, I don't know if they keep laying everybody off and prices just keep going up. Okay, prices of the food, prices of property taxes, prices of everything continues to rise. Then what happens? It's starting to feel more serious, and a recession already is serious. It's starting to feel like it's more than that. Is that the point? I don't know.
So can we get to the point where we acknowledge the R word and possibly now the D word, depression? So a lot of us been through the 2008 crash. Some of us has been through the Great Depression. So we see the trends of how this period of time connects with similarities of those periods of times. But for those, this is their first adult experience dealing with an economic crash. They're kind of looking at this from what they were told from the history books of that period and matching that with what they see for the first time now, and they discovered the real truth of how this happened and if it was an accident or a lot of this was deliberate and are intentional.
How do you think that this period of time in terms of economics is going to be taught in like the history books? Because growing up, you know, when we would learn about the Great Depression or about the 2008 financial crisis, it was always kind of served to us as like, you know, a lot of economic factors happened. There were a lot of variables, and, you know, the economy is really hard to control and things just kind of happen, kind of framed as an accident, like a wild, large scale accident, right? That like no one had control over. But as I'm living through like my first economic crash as an adult, it's very obvious that so many of these things that have caused the economic strain, you know, that affects, you know, 80-90% of people, was very much intentional. It was very much planned and orchestrated for, you know, the lower class to feel this. It's very much an attack. I think that's a perfect word for it. Like, this is an economic attack. And going outside of economics, so much of policy is again framed as like, we didn't know that this would be an outcome, when now as an adult I'm starting to see that's exactly the outcome. Like all of the shit that Reagan did in his administration, all of the policies that are still affecting us today. Like, I can't tell you, as someone who actually studied, you know, political science and public policy in college, like, I can't tell you how many things we learned about where it was directly tied to Reagan. And oh my God. Anyways, not gonna get too angry. But at the time, you know, again, it was made to seem that these things were unintentional consequences of these policies. And now I'm like, no, they were very much intended. They were very much, that's what they wanted to happen the entire time, right? So, but I don't think that's ever going to be put in the history books as like, yeah, we wanted the economy to crash, we wanted to hurt poor people. Like, that's never going to be what it goes on the history books. which I think is a shame.
So I don't know how this period of time will be remembered in the history books. Will they whitewash it? Will they get to the point they be like, it was no big deal, the Democrats, Republicans, would they blame it on partisan biases? Or would they call it for what it is? It's all of it and above. The policies, the inflation, the printing of money, the stimulus, pandemic, the 40 billion we sent to Argentina, the tariffs, the junk bonds, all of it made a difference. What do you guys make of this? You tell me, put your comments below. Let's talk about it. This is Where is the Money? Talk to you soon.